Much of the text is identical. 4 of the plans discuss how to protect walruses, but there are no walruses in the Gulf of Mexico. We found that none of the 5 oil companies has an adequate response plan.
It is not just BP. Democrats in Congress declaring war on big oil today.
But the CEOs of the other 4 big oil companies made it clear that this BP disaster would never have happened with them. Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest political news and analysis. And for even more, it's twitter.com/thenote. And let us know what you think. And Jonathan, what do you think in Oil Week?
Well, this is the big one. We have the president giving his very first Oval Office address as president of the United States. And Rick, we've said this on other events, but this may well be the most important speech of the Obama presidency. I mean, this is... You know, he's using the Oval Office for the first time to address the nation on this disaster.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the White House woke up late to the fact that this has become a major test of his presidency. That's why you bring in this. This is as close to shouting on the roof of the White House as you can get. Primetime Oval Office. We'll see what the president has to say in a couple of hours from now. Next up, line them up. A congressional committee today has all of the big executives from the oil companies, although not Tony Hayward. He's saved for later in the week. They all come together, and there's some really devastating stuff here. We find out that big chunks of the emergency response plans for these oil companies were exactly the same. And in at least one case, there's a dead guy who's listed as the emergency contact. That is bad news for the oil companies and members of Congress just ripping into these companies today.
His name's Mr. Lutz, and he's been dead for 4 years, Rick, but he's there. The other thing is Exxon's plan comes in for some ridicule here because Exxon's got this plan. 50 pages deal with how to deal with the press, and there's about 6 pages on how to protect natural resources. Wow. Next up, passed out. We had a frightening moment today on Capitol Hill before the Senate Armed Services Committee when General David Petraeus actually passed out. This happened during a hearing on Afghanistan. And Rick, as you know, Petraeus is one of the most legendarily fit people in the U.S. government. I mean, this guy is an unbelievable marathoner. He likes to prove to his young recruits that he can do more push-ups than them. He said simply that he didn't have enough water. The hearing was postponed. It will happen tomorrow. Petraeus at the end of that was smiling.
Yeah, we saw him walking around. Thankfully, a scary moment there for a couple of minutes, but glad to see that he's going to be okay. And finally, Right Angle. Republican Senate candidate Sharon Angle is in Washington today meeting with some of the establishment Republicans who she didn't want to go anywhere near during the primary. And interesting, a lot of the convincing that she's done recently since winning the primary last week has been aimed in a particular direction. And see if you can figure out what it is. These are the folks she's talked to. Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh. I'm sensing a theme, John. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, you left out National Review.
Oh, okay, good.
So there was some balance. Actually, we have invited Sharon Angle on Top Line, and we're eager and hopeful that she's going to appear on the show. The chair is right here. Sharon Angle, if you're watching today, please come in. We'd love to talk to you.
Add it to the list, along with Sarah Palin and some others that have the permanent invitations. But in the meantime, we have an excellent guest we talked to just a few minutes ago, Chairman Edolphus Towns, who is the chairman of the House Government Reform and Oversight Committee, a Democrat from New York. This is what he had to say. Chairman Towns, thank you for joining us. You just got back from the Gulf region. You were there on a fact-finding trip with some members of Congress, and I'm curious your impressions. Is the federal government doing everything that it needs to do, in your estimation, to help residents of the Gulf cope with this?
Well, I really feel that the programs need to be coordinated much more effectively. I really feel that. And I think that the government needs to put more pressure on BNP, because I think a lot of the things that they're doing, they need to do them a lot quicker, and of course they need to do more. And I'm hoping that when the president speaks tonight, that he will talk about the importance of BP being more involved in the cleanup. I know BP is saying that we're doing what we can do, but let me say that I really feel that this should become a public works project, and BP should put up a certain amount of money and get workers to go in there and to clean this mess up. It is really awful, the smell, and of course, and to see what's happening with the people in the area, no jobs, people that who have been involved in fishing all their days now come to this point in time, not able to do it. And then, of course, the rigs that are there, that there's a moratorium now, so they can't work.
Right.
So you're talking about a lot of people that are unemployed that need jobs.
Well, we have seen some real frustration down there from local officials. I mean, Senator Bill Nelson said the system's just not working. And the quote here from Senator Nelson is, the information is not flowing, the decisions are not timely, the resources are not produced. As a result, you have a big mess with no command and control. That sounds like an indictment of the way the administration is handling this. What's your take on that?
Well, I really feel that the agencies need to be much more aggressive. Without them being aggressive, BNP are not going to move very quickly. So the coordination definitely needs to be stronger. Definite goals and timetables should be set. There should be money set aside and to create and also with fines, that if they do not do things in a timely fashion, they receive fines. This is the only way this is going to get moving. And without that, there's going to be this continuous lag, and we're going to try this and then maybe later on try that. And the people in the area, as you indicated, are very, very frustrated. You have people that are unemployed, even the people that work on the rig. Now with the moratorium, there's about 20,000 to 25,000 people there that now are unemployed. Right. And those rigs are not going to stay there. They're going to move somewhere else if they are not able to work.
Mr. Chairman, I want to hone in a little bit on the Mineral Management Services, the MMS. This is a troubled agency. There have been many reports from your committee and from other committees, other private investigators, independent investigators, looking at the problems at the MMS. To your mind, were any of the red flags being recognized by this administration before the incident in the Gulf 2 months ago?
Well, there were some questions raised, along the way with the coziness of MMS and the industry, and where you had a lot of people that worked for MMS ended up working in the industry, and there was this kind of relationship that was very, very disturbing. And of course, when we asked for information, they were not forthcoming with it. That bothered us as well. So we're concerned about that MMS in the industry. But here again, MMS now is going to be reorganized. But main thing is to make certain that there's total transparency, because if there's not transparency, when they finish reorganizing it, still will not get to where we need to go. I'm concerned about the relationship with MMS and the industry, and the industry with MMS, because if they have the regulatory responsibility, then all this swinging door, a revolving door kind of behavior is very, very disturbing.
And you mentioned the jobs outlook down there, which of course is really grim. All these people, whether from tourism, fishing, but what about all the jobs that are dependent on the petroleum and oil and gas industry? I mean, they're worried about this moratorium being yet another whammy, hitting the Gulf.
Yeah, I think this moratorium has to be revisited because of the fact that if you have 31, 32 rigs in the area, and if they pull out, let me tell you, it's going to be a long time before they come back in. If they come back in, they're going to go somewhere else. In the meantime, these people that are working, and these are good jobs, these are good paying jobs, then what are they going to do? At the same time, coupled with the fact that the fishing industry is shut down, and the fact that the tourists are not coming, all of these factors are something that we need to take charge and to make certain that this is done real quickly. How do we do this? By making certain that BP put up a sum of money that will allow the government to set up a public works project, and also to come up with another system in terms of the moratorium. I don't think that 6 months is necessary, and I'm hoping that the Secretary will revisit that as well, because here again, it's the jobs, it's the opportunity for people to work, but we're concerned about the health situation as well. Mr.
Chairman, I just want to interrupt and get one final thought on the President's speech tonight. What is the single most important thing that he can convey in his address to the nation from the Oval Office this evening?
That BP is going to recognize timetables, and that certain things must be done, and he's not going to wait for a lifetime for them to happen. He has to set timetables and goals, and also be actually need to put up money where it would be allocated for a public works program. I'm hoping that he will say some things like that, because that's the only way we're going to get this cleaned up in a very reasonable period of time. The government has to step in.
All right, Chairman Ed Towns, Democrat of New York, Chairman of the House Government and Government Reform and Oversight Committee. We thank you for being here. Thanks.
Thank you,
sir.